Good evening, everyone. System Shock here with the 124th episode of Book of Hours. Our first run through YouTube, playing as the artist. Who is the artist? Picasso? I'll give you Picasso. The artist came to Hush House to shape and share a history of primal, ultimate, unprecedented experience. But you can complete the game by recording any history. You might wish to begin your studies with the boss wisdom. Memories the artist. Data was a start. The Surrealist Manifesto? A step along the road, but only a step. The road goes nowhere unless it goes into the wood. That's a road we can only walk in the dark. Wait, no, not in the dark. In blood. Hip deep in blood. Oh, shut up. Give it to me. I'll write it. So we're at the end of the day, our first day of spring, so better now. So in this case, we'll earn a little bit of money doing manual labor. There's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. I could also use this to get the old wound, but again, it isn't the sort of thing I really need to worry about. I'm not focused on getting moon based on these two rooms. Right now, we're just sort of stepping into the dawn period. This is the last of the sections of the house that we haven't examined yet. So right now, this is a lot more about taking stock. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm cataloging the remaining works that I need to study. So in this case, Opening the Sky, an unusual recording of Vero's Opening the Sky, composed for the coronation of the new king, Henry IX. The record bears the suppression stamp, Expunge. That is a 10 Sky text. I have a lot more phonographs than the previous runs I've done. And here we have the Admonitory Automata project. Excellent. All right, I'm looking forward to reading this one. So yeah, we've cataloged all the books now. So the next thing that I probably am going to want to do while I'm leveling up different skills and such, I may want to start opening up these different boxes. So I believe I have 4 to work with right now. So I think the way I'm going to handle this is I'm still going to bring in, I'm going to bring in helpers and assistants and such. But the plan is going to be that I will level, so I'll read at least 1 text. I'll probably do 2. But at minimum I'll take care of 1 text a day. And then I will try to level up whatever skills that I get, and then the surplus will be dedicated towards opening up these remaining boxes. So, the Whispering Stair. This was the stair that the priestesses walked in the time that this was the Abbey of the Black Dove. Their carved faces still guard the walls. Their prayers may still be heard when the airs of the aisle are exceptionally still. Here we have the Abandoned Church. Ooh. This is a holy place of the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot. The hours they worshipped are not worshipped now, but those hours are not dead, nor even sleeping. I should not enter this place without pouring out a sufficient offering. So I think this is kind of neat. There's a few different options that I have. So this is, to me, Solomon's Preparation, Sacrament Malachite, Skinshuck Mead, or the Sacrament Assite. There may be other options here that I'm not thinking of. Now, Solomon's Preparation is probably the most straightforward for me to do. Yes, because I have more than 1. I don't even need to bring in an assistant for that, actually. So I actually didn't want to just go charging through this, but there are reasons why I would want to... There's a reason why I want to do this. So this is a holy place of the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot. The hours they worshipped are not worshipped now, but those hours are not dead nor even sleeping. I should not enter this place without pouring out a sufficient offering. All right, bronze spintria for our trouble. We'll get a little bit of money, and then... As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. Alright, Turns out I was completely off in terms of the layout here. I might need a little bit of time with a pencil and paper. I don't think I'm going to know what's behind this room. Actually, I guess it's only this room. I'm mostly just trying to figure out, do I want to try and open up another room, or do I just bring in a friend to generate memories for me? Probably just generating memories. Daybreak, memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Let's, good lord, I write a lot of notes for this game. Okay, so for Moth, that's really one for the barber. If I take a barber and Trist, that gives me 2 and 4. I also have shears, so that's good for 1 and 5. Now I think my best Moth memory right now is the name day riddle, so that's pretty weak. No, what am I saying? Sun's weakness. So that's 5, so that brings it up to 10. After which, I guess it's... yeah, elements of the soul, tool, and memory. Okay, well, technically I can make my life a little bit easier if I use one of the mommets. Yeah, so if I used a flushed mommet, for instance, I would be able to... I would have the 12 moth right away, no problem, but let's not think of it that way. So if I was looking for mothy food, that's probably honey. Yes. And it does count as sustenance, so either 1 or 3. And then Skin Shuck Mead, which is such a preposterously overdone solution. I mean, the good news is I have a lot of Skin Shuck Mead, so it's not a catastrophe if I do that. But I actually think the cuckoo honey, if I had more of it, would make more sense. Okay, so... so this is such a weird one to be in. This is like 17 to 19 in total. So I mean, we don't worry about the honey, obviously, but that still brings us up to like 16. I mean... these things do exist to be used. It's really just a question of whether or not I can make the Skin Shuck Mead in time. So my other alternative would be to try and go for Heart. So that's a Mrs. Kill thing. So Core gives us 2, so that brings us up to 3. And then 1 from the bowls brings us up to 4. Good lord, why can't I write properly? Okay, so I don't recall if I have Heart from... so I actually don't remember the details of Inescapable Confinement that well, but I'm going to make a couple guesses here. So we've got the Sun Disfigured, which would be Moth, Grail, and Lantern. And then we have Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, which definitely knock Scale, and I think Winter. The one thing I'm pretty sure of, though, is that it doesn't have heart. So yeah, I think the storm is the best we can do for the memory. So that brings us up to 8 heart. And at that point, we're back to figuring out what we want to do with food and drink. So, Ruby-wise Ruin, which is not, like, it's not my favorite choice for heart, but the thing is we have a lot of it, and it's not that hard for us to make. So that brings us up to 10, at which point we really just need to find 2 heart, which can come from the ham. So, this is not my favorite option. Like, I'm giving up a lot in order to be able to do it, but we can get to the Gaping Darkness if I feel so inclined. Forge... Oh, man, that's an interesting one. Okay, so... Because the thing is, I haven't really tried that much Forge. So 2 from Denzel. 2 from Metal. Spanners. There's 5. And the thing is, I can't actually think of high-level Forge memories. So I'm actually only just going to put 2 down for Foresight. That brings me up to 7. So we might be able to bring it up to 11 if we found the right combination of, like, teas and food. Well, is there Forge food? I don't think there is. Yeah, okay. So we probably shouldn't count on... Ah, now that actually raises an interesting question. So, if we want to hire one of the tinners... So I believe we get 2 scale off of that. So 1 from the heart. Health, sorry. Brings us up to 3. 1 from the serpent-style glass. Brings us up to 4. 5 from inescapable confinement. Brings us up to 9. And I guess we would use the mackerel in this case. I'm giving up too much mackerel. Cool. All right. Not quite how I imagine the day going, but you know what? Now is a good time for us to do this. So, assistance from a miner. It is spring. The local miners, the local miners often travel to the Feast of Lights below. If one breaks his journey at the Sweet Bones, a shilling will buy his labor for a day. Okay, so let's get the parts that we need first. So that's going to be reading towards a fundamental aesthetic. We need Ericapean for that. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. Now, I was going to read. Now, it's a little harder because I was going to use my health to read the phonograph, but I guess I don't really need to use the health. It's such a low cost... Such a low cost one for me to read. So, recordings from the Althaban Abyss. That we need Deep Mandaic. So really, this is just a question of getting the right skill, and we can use a FET for that. So I can master this mystery enough scale to match mystery scale. Now. That's technically my one reading for the day. What was my game plan for... the manner in which the alchemist was spared? 8, 10... almost certainly I was relying on getting lucky. Although I feel like there should be some kind of a 4G ink that I'm forgetting. Okay, well, you know what? I don't need to get cute with this because I have a film I can watch. So the Monitory Automata Project, we've got 2, 8. Yeah, we can read that right away. I can master this mystery for enough forge to match mystery forge. So the last thing that I want to do is make sure that I've got Tridesma Hyra taken care of. One thing that I can do in between, I don't think Nona's desk will like this. No. Maybe... no, I don't think Collars does moon. But he does do edge, so I will give myself an old wound at Collars' desk. Focus my own and local resources to create a small quantity of stable edge ingredient. Nope. Explore an old wound to awaken the violent resonances within. So the reason why I felt okay doing that, like there's the question, well, aren't you wasting your elements of the soul doing this? And the thing is that I was using one of the 2 Arab that I have. So essentially all of the elements of the soul that I needed, I still have. I will be giving up the health at some point, and then I will be using one of these just to, to earn some money at the Sweet Bones. But we can do everything that we want with the tin miner for the for the day, and still be able to level up Tridesma Hyra and possibly other skills as well. Okay, Miner's Assistance. We'll start. I should be clear. This is really not the game that you optimize everything for, but if you did want to optimize the way that you handle your assistants, there is actually a better way of doing this. So the more sensible way of handling it is if you're relying on someone to both open a room and generate memories for you, you actually want to talk to them right up to the limit of what it takes to level them up. So for instance, for me, what I need to do is I need to add health, a serpent style glass, the Newman, and a mackerel. So that's 4 different actions, 30 seconds for each action, which means that I want to make sure it's 2 minutes before the end of the day. Now, I'm sure you've noticed for me, and this may be the same for you, if you try to guess the time ahead of, like, basically trying to plan out exactly those 2 minutes, very often what happens is I'm just shy of what I need. And I wind up just sort of letting the whole house of cards fall down. And there's sort of, like, there's heuristics you can use, like, it's about a minute, I think, between these different segments of the sun. But, like, the thing is that's like the perfect one to go for. But a little bit like in the real world, right? Like, we tend not to go for the perfect option. What we tend to go is for the second best that gives us a little bit of flexibility. So, like, if you go to an airport, you don't show up the minute that you need to sort of check in. Well, unless you're rich. If you're rich, then the plane waits for you, basically. But they're private airport. In fact, that is the reason why you don't see the amenities in private terminals, but you do in full airports. But basically, you show up to the airport in advance and you, like, read a book, or again, like, airports are basically like malls now, so you do some shopping, or there aren't really arcades in the airports I've been in, but, like, you do stuff, right? So the second best that we usually go for here is I would maybe do 3 actions early, and then then I would I'd have 1 item, because anticipating that 30 seconds is a little bit easier. And then, of course, more importantly, the way I do it is that the consumable, like, so in this case, I only have 1 consumable, the mackerel. So the worst that happens here is I just waste a little bit of money, which is easy for me to bring back. But yeah, again, like I said, this isn't the sort of game that you you probably just don't like break a sweat over the optimizations. The worst that you lose is time, and time is kind in in Brandkrug and Hush House. So in this case here, I'm basically just going to front load all of the upgrades that I do for the miner, but the cost to doing that essentially is that I have less knowledge of what memories I'm going to work with, and what that means is that I have a little it's a little more uncertainty in terms of how many elements of the soul I'm going to have at the end of the day, while I plug in any gaps that I need to do something like level up Tradi's Mahaira. So that's kind of the cost of all of it. Okay, Cloudy Day helps me because that gives us a moon for Tradi's Mahaira, so I only need 3 memories at this point, I believe. And this is a really interesting room, so this is why I didn't want to go crashing into it right away, but I do have the Wing Haunted Cave. 12 Forge or 12 Grail, so that's one. I guess technically that tells me that I could have brought in Mrs. Kill instead of the Miner, but I think the Miner still makes sense to bring in for the simple reason that I don't have access to them forever, right? I want to get my scale stuff out of the way during spring. Otherwise, I'm waiting another year for them to come back. So, Our Lady Beneath. Who is Our Lady? The Red Grail, which gives life, which takes life, which is not sated. The Horned Axe, who bears 2 blades, who waits at the threshold, who sunders that which should not be joined. The Ring-Yew, who is succulent, who is renewed, who encompasseth. Or a 4th, who is always signified but never named. A librarian might phrase the question differently. Who was first? Quite a few things here. Altar of the Knot. History is woven. A knot is a testament. This seems very simple, but we've actually heard about something here. And I don't know if I'm going to have time to get to it, so if I don't solve this by the end of the stream, some of you might recall there's something special about this. And I'd be interested in hearing your guesses if you feel so inclined. Aspect of the Malachite, Mylissa, Queen, and Palace. One of the kinder aspects of the Malachite, Mylissa, both Queen and Palace, who feeds all comers, whose body is the house in which her children dwell. Mylissa was not always a name of the Malachite. She may have been a name of another hour. She may have even begun among the Carapace Cross before she chose eternity over history. Honey. Aspect of the Axe, Zenodis Half-Faced. One of the more enigmatic aspects of the Horned Axe, Zenodis Half-Face, who welcomes or slays strangers at the threshold. Zenodis is a sister, sometimes to owl and cat, sometimes to bull and butterfly, sometimes to dove and serpent. This hybrid nature suggests a link with the pre-human Carapace Cross, but that's not so surprising in a name of the Axe. Aspect of the Grail, Lagia, the Queen Unsated. One of the crueler aspects of the Red Grail, Lagia, the Queen Unsated, devouring mother, sister lover of Antaios. One tradition has it that Lagia took animal form so that she could satisfy her craving to devour her own children and go unpunished. Another that the animal form was the punishment for her incest. The Grail has been tolerant of contradictions. The Grail has often been tolerant of contradictions. Perhaps her part in the intercalate really was, after all, a long and subtle move to undermine eternity, or perhaps she's just not to be trusted. There's also a few items in here. So we've got beeswax. It begins as a flower. A widow's candle, lighted in remembrance. Lignum vitae black, the hardest of all woods. We have shears of the Sisterhood, black iron shears marked with the Sisterhood's triple knot. A quartz chunk, ice rock, winking light. Moth orchid scented candle, a candle scented with moth orchid. Gervanite, an alloy equivalent in some respects to the clockmaker's Invar, but instead of a constant weight, it retains the same origin in every history. We've got the mortar and pestle crush, ambergris chunk, never, never, never call it whale vomit. Human hair, of interest to wig makers, cushion stuffers, and crude sorcerers. Moth, fabric, and remains. Fabric and fiber, rather. Remains, and another widow's candle. Okay, So I'm happy that we've got something Grail-wise that we can use. Yeah, I don't know. I have some ideas about my next steps. Now this is a shame. I should have been using the sweet bones for money. Fixing and mending. There's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. We'll work alongside each other. All right. We were using... So we've got the health. Serpent-style glass is the next one. Serpent-style glass, carved snakes writhe down the frame. A prominent inscription reads, "To the librarian Gervenius, in earnest of our wager. I can lend my assistants something to help, increasing their abilities." Now, I have a couple... There's a couple of secrets that I'm sitting on right now, and I'm debating on showing them, but I think it's actually a little more fun if I let the books motivate them. So, towards a fundamental aesthetic, or the House of Glass, Julian Cosley considered this his masterwork. Techniques for perception and analysis which permit invidious and apocalyptic conclusions. Possibly the most assiduously suppressed book in history. The entire run was destroyed. Even the presses were melted and dispersed, but the manuscript edition has survived. The perfect hegemony of the hours is perhaps eternal, but Cosley proposes and describes confinement inescapable, aesthetic and optical techniques which might contain even an hour, profoundly disrupting the order of the Mansus. He presents this as his own work, but there are hints here and there that he received inspiration or even assistance from the nowhere hour named Snow. So it's Knock, Scale, and Winter. Yep. Move gingerly while the pain lasts. Well, so we'll see what the studies bring us, but right now I'm happy to boost the miner's abilities. I can discuss a memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory, but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. And I'm noticing the amount of time that I have left. So one of the things I was going to try and do today, just because I am reliant on quite a few memories, I was going to try and serve the mackerel or the ham, probably the ham, at the end of the day. But, oh, sorry, I can't do the ham because the ham only has one scale. I do actually need to use the mackerel in this case, or the pilchards. Is there a difference? No, there isn't. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So we'll just restore the shaft here. It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie, with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm sort of idiot-proofing the next stream. So in this case, we'll sell the pickled pilchards and acquired an unforgettable taste. I can offer my assistants something to eat. This will increase their aspect. It's also just friendly. So remembering that we're trying to... Hang on a minute. Oh, crap. No. Room of Rust. Okay, we're good. I forgot that I have a 14 that I need to work with, though. Oh, right. No, we were going to use Reverend Timothy for that. Never mind. Although I guess, technically... The miner might actually make more sense in that case. I have the Kronsicord and the Sacrament Asite, so really it's a question of where do I get that last three scale from? That's something for me to think about. Okay, but this is good. Actually, I'm gonna I'm gonna finish with this one because this has got a cool little bit in it. So, recordings from the Alphaben Abyss. Recordings from a subterranean space in the mountains near Baghdad of conversations between the entomologist Juliana Zawadzowski and an unidentified presence. Only Zawadzowski's part of the conversations is comprehensible to the listener. The other side consists of grating, buzzing, and rumbling sounds, perhaps only rock movements or artifacts of the recording process, which Zawadzowski nevertheless unhesitatingly translates. Zawadzowski seems to believe that the presence identifies itself as a name or remnant of the lost hour called Seven Coils. It pleads with her to assist its rebirth. It begs her to find something for it in the city of Amisa. Towards the end of the interview, Zawadzowski grows suspicious and repeatedly accuses the presence of being not the Seven Coils at all, only an inhabitant. The recording ends in mid-sentence. So, fear. Let's write that down. Come on. Stone stories. The Admonitory Automata Project. Footage of experimental devices under develop... No, sorry. This is not the one I was thinking of, but this is still fun nocturnal lore. Footage of experimental devices under development in the Kukurbit under Governor Collar's supervision. The admonitory automata are nasty little things of spring and wire, but they all have merry faces of painted tin. The last item shown is a prototype towards something called a condignator, which Collars says proudly will allow a prisoner to elaborate their own punishment. He hastens to add that he hopes that in the coming era, punishment will be an entirely obsolete concept. So there's an Ilse Bischoff film, which is the one I was thinking of. And Foresight. Okay. I just figure this is easier than putting them on the... I wonder what made that noise. I figure this is a little easier than putting them on the regular shelves. So, with Stone Stories, we have Nectar and Scale. The bit of good news for this is we probably don't have that much. Yeah, we just need one more. So really, if I want, I can use the Earth Sign. The drawback is I do need to bring the health back for that. But I think overall, that's probably... I think that is an acceptable trade-off, all told. Tradi's Mahaira we were already working on. Lockworks and Clockworks is a Knock and Sky affair, so Foresight doesn't actually do anything for me there. The good news on that one is, again, it's a low-level skill, so there's not a whole lot that's being asked of us. Sorry, I need a minute to think. So I think probably the way I'm going to handle this, I'm trying to think if there's another way I can get scale. I guess regret would help me with that. So we'll definitely bring back the health because it seems very straightforward to get Stone Stories up another level. Lockworks and Clockworks. So I need to bring back the Shaft for the next level, but in theory... Okay, so we do the Foss, the Core, and the Health. And if we got nothing else in terms of memories. 1, 2, 3. Or 5. Okay. So we almost have enough to basically put we almost have enough that we could ignore the minor for memories. We're not there yet, but I think probably what I'm going to do, I will try and bring back the health if I remember. And then we're slowly going to transition these into either things that'll generate memories for us, or into we'll trade them out, so that right now I am going to want to get the shaft back. But what I'll maybe do the next time I want to earn some money, I'll use the whist. And then, we'll bring back the health, and then, so on and so forth. So, in terms of next week, here's what I think is going to happen. So we're going to open up not the Slithering Fountain, we will open up the Room of Rusts. So Room of Rusts for today. Next day, we'll probably open up the Wing Haunted Cave. By the end of today, we will have Stone Stories, Tridesma Hyra, and probably 1 level of Lockworks and Clockworks, maybe 2. And if that happens, it's either a question of how many elements of the soul do I have left to open up the different containers, or, what remaining books do I want to read? Again, there's lots of stuff for me to do, but all of that will have to wait till next week. Just a reminder, we did actually get something special in this room, so I'd be interested in anybody mentioning what they think that might be. I always think it's nice if you offer your reasoning as well, because I think that was one of the things that was sort of nice when somebody guesses, hey, I think there might be an hour in the oubliette. The reasoning is what allows you to sort of say, okay, so it wasn't an hour, but the reasoning was sort of there. That's the thing that's sort of nice about it, because at least for me, I actually should maybe say that I'm talking my own book here, but I do find it. I find it's nice for me to have a mental record of where those ideas came from, because what I tend to find is they're a little more helpful in terms of guiding me through the game, or just through studying anything really. But when I'm playing the game, and so many things in this game are actually sort of these leaps of logic, which maybe they're not things that you can really articulate clearly, but they really do feel like they're right. And I always like, for my own part, if I can find those times where my intuitions maybe didn't serve me very well, to maybe figure out, okay, so what was the thing that stopped me from doing that? And mostly just overall, obviously I'm referring to previous comments. I just like it when people say something like, oh, I think there might be a long in the oubliette, and I just get to I get to anticipate. This is the fun for me as the broadcaster. I get to anticipate that moment where it's like, ooh, they got close. I wonder what they're going to think when the reveal comes. So that's one of the reasons why I say these sorts of things. It's a lot of fun to see everyone's reactions to the game, and I realize that my fun is maybe not the first priority for the broadcast. I'm clearly doing a broadcast that all of you are sitting through the advertising for, but it is one of the perks for me. So if any of you want to indulge me with your guesses, it's related to Our Lady Beneath, and there's something earlier somewhere here that Our Lady Beneath is referenced. Please don't let this is a big game and the zoom only goes. I'm referring to basically anything in our previous encounters. This can be an object, a book. It could be, and there's anything that's fair game. But there is something specific about this room that we have been working towards, which I will leave you over the weekend to ponder. But thank you very much for watching. This has been a lot of fun. Like I said, on Monday's episode, I was really looking forward to doing Book of Hours this week. And I don't know. I think it's just because we're going into all the Dawn period rooms where we have some more momentum going on. We're seeing some of the Newman. There's just lots happening, in some of the early questions are being paid off now. So I hope you are as enthusiastic about the game as I am, because it's still always fun. Even though I've played this through to completion now, it's always fun to see the payoffs. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I will be back Monday for another episode. Until then, take care.